Welcome to the Free Life Agents Podcast, where we help real estate agents build a lifestyle they never need a vacation from. Here's your host, Kobe Zen.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Free Life Agents Podcast, and this is going to be FLA number 30. And we have a returning guest this episode, Willie Davis from episode number 9. He was one of my very first, one of my earlier guests. And we had, I think, in my opinion, one of my favorite episodes where Willie shared his background, his story, and talked a lot about what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, not just a successful agent, but a successful entrepreneur in general. So if you guys don't know who Willie is, definitely go back, listen to that episode. It was a great one. So I think you guys can get a lot of value from it. But we're bringing Willie back, and he's going to be talking about what's going on in the real estate market here going into Q4, potentially 2023, as well, Q4 2022 and Q1 2023. And some of the things that are happening maybe to kind of ease the nerves of real estate professionals and investors and buyers and sellers in the market. So welcome back, Willie. It's great to have you. Great to have you back on the podcast.
No, I'm excited to be back. It's good to talk to you. I was thinking back to that first conversation we had. I think we recorded that in March, and that was a really, really good conversation. So yeah, I'm excited to extend it again.
Right. Yeah. I love it when I have a great guest like you, and we just, we kind of just hit it off and, bring you back and see what's been happening, what's been going on. And especially now, some of the more current things going on in the real estate market, a lot of panic, and just want to ease the nerves, right? So, what's been going on with you in the past couple of months, moving to the transition with Atlanta, moving in, being in 2 different real estate markets and everything. What's been going on with you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The transition, it's now been over a year now. I think the last time we talked, It was just under a year. So approaching that 1.5 year mark of being dual licensed and working here in Atlanta and also in Metro Detroit. And, I got to say, even going into Q4 of this year, my business is, I would say, about 50-50. I've been fortunate enough to have past and even some new clients in Metro Detroit want to work with me, or people who maybe last year we had a conversation and things just kind of came to fruition this year. And then also here in Atlanta, things kind of take off and get more steady. So, I'm the transition and all of that's in full force. And I'm at that point truly where I'm working, branding, and handling business in 2 states. And I'm, like I said, I'm grateful and fortunate that it's been working out, because not always do you think of Atlanta and Detroit or Michigan and Georgia as much as you might hear about Michigan and Florida, even Florida and Georgia and things like that. So it's been great. It's been awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad to hear everything's working out well with that, and you're able to kind of juggle it between your schedule. Probably a lot of flying, right? Because those are not driving distance states.
Well, actually, what's interesting, because the airline flights, the prices went up so much this year, I actually have been driving back and forth. It's 10 hours,
really?
But when I go back to Michigan, I'm there for at least a week. I'm there 5 to 7 days. Yeah. Maybe I was there a few months ago, I was there for 9 days. And while I was there, a listing, I didn't go there for this, but while I was there, a listing came to me, and obviously then the purchase of it, and, kind of worked with one of my partner agents there. But, actually it is a little easier just to drive. At least I have my car, I can come and go, a little more flexible with that. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even realize, I guess, but like 10 hours is it's not like a, like an easy drive, right? It's you do it in 1 day or 2 days?
Oh, I do it in 1 day, just door to door. I leave about 8-9 o'clock in the morning, get there by dinner. But I mean, you're in Texas, so it takes what, 14, 15? How long does it take to get from end to end of Texas?
Oh yeah, I mean, it takes 10 hours to get into Texas. Yeah, we've done that before. So yeah, it's not. Yeah, so we drove for an entire day, and we weren't even out of the state yet.
And you're still in Texas. Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty familiar. I'm no stranger to driving to Georgia in that kind of
Oh
that
yeah.
area as well. And that takes about 14 hours, and we usually do it in 2 days. And that's why I kind of asked you. 10
Mm,
hours, you can definitely do it in a day, but
yeah.
we have to do it in 2 days. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I usually go by myself too. So
okay,
it's maybe at most 3 stops, a couple of gas stops, maybe an extra bathroom stop in there potentially.
right?
But yeah, you listen to some podcasts, a couple of
Yeah.
albums, or record CDs, if you will, or whatever, on iTunes, and then next thing you know, you see the sign that says "Welcome to Michigan."
Yeah, you do it a couple of times, it doesn't feel as bad. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah, but I mean, that's actually a really good transition. Or it brought up a really good point to go into like what we really want to talk about today, which is like the
Hmm.
shifting market, not necessarily just real estate, because
Yeah.
it's more like overall economic, what's going on here and there. And you mentioned, the
Hmm.
flights are so expensive because of the inflation raising prices that you have to end up driving. So that's it's a shift, right, in
Yeah.
your current life. So I mean,
Hmm.
let's just kind of dig into it. There's a lot of panic going on. What's going to happen to the economy, what's going to happen to the market. So let's do micro first, and then maybe go into
Hmm.
macro. So let's what's your take? What you've seen in the market in two different markets. What do you think is going to happen
Hmm.
Q4 2022, Q3 2023, or Q1
Yeah.
2023 as well?
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting now, I've been here in Atlanta, like I said, a full year and a half. I can compare Q3 and 4 22 to Q3 and 4 of 2021.
Right.
And even Metro Detroit and Atlanta too. Last year, we just saw a lot of, I mean, the market was just gangbusters. And
Mhm.
if there was a thought of a house going on the market, it was already sold, even before you put a sign in there, before an MLS and things like that. And from a consumer standpoint or a seller standpoint, when I say consumer, it was just very easy. Just like, all right, whatever price I want to list my house for, it's going to go for that and then some. Whatever price you're thinking at 30%, and it still might go over that. Um, but as we've been getting into this, I think since what is it, April and May, June, the inflation rates were kind of
Yep.
getting a little higher, and a lot of people, focus right here in Atlanta right now, people were kind of getting scared, and a lot of buyers were just like, oh no, I'm out of the market. Whenever there is some kind of economic instability, if you will,
Mhm.
the first thought is to, in some cases, not to do something. And yes, there are some things you shouldn't do during that time. But what we were always seeing is over decades and historically, real estate was always the best bet.
Right.
So I just had a conversation just earlier today with a good friend of mine where, that shift we were seeing in May and June, and when the rates went in a matter of 6 weeks, went from 3%, 40% to 5%, up to 6%. And people are like, oh my God, rates are going to go up. And we were hearing conversations from economists that, oh, it could go up to 10% before this is all over and all of that. I'm seeing that it's starting, that increase has started to stabilize. And a lot of those buyers, or some of those buyers who at that time early on were like, I don't want to do anything. Some, not all, but some have kind of stopped waiting, just like it is what it is. If you want to buy, you're going to buy. If you want to sell, you're going to sell. I even will still say to my sellers, um, a house I had listed in Mission in Kalamazoo, Southwest Michigan, a couple of months ago. We had some good traction, about 9 or 10 showings, but we got one offer. But that one offer is what we needed. It was at asking. It was giving us what we were needing. It wasn't taking too much. My sellers were not giving up any additional monies or anything like that. And I say to my sellers, you only need one. And we're getting back to that point, or that period of time where you only need one. And if you price the house right, or as a buyer, if you are honest with yourself and realize you're going to marry the house and not the rate, you can refinance in 12, 18, 24 months. But no matter what, even if that rate's at 6%, it most likely is still going to be cheaper than the rent that you're paying for a comparable apartment, or probably an apartment with at least one less bedroom. So we're getting to that point where the agents, as an agent, and I love this part of it too, I'm getting back to the point where I'm educating clients again. I'm educating my sellers on what does this mean for you? And I'm educating my buyers on what does this mean long term, you know? And that's almost something that hasn't happened in the last couple of years, because I would never say to a buyer a year or two ago, or outside of a year or two ago, I would never say to a buyer, "Oh, write your offer for 30,000 over." What I, but I, and I still never did, but I would say, "Hey, this is what the homes are going for in this area. Write it for what you're most comfortable with." And sometimes that was 20 or 30 over. And as a seller, I would never tell my seller to, "Oh yeah, just reach for the stars and everything." I'm telling my sellers, I do not have comps to support that price. I've said it to a good friend of mine whose house I'm listing. I don't have comps to support that price just because 6 months ago something sold for an elevated price. So, going from just any and everybody just doing any and everything, a buyer buying it for whatever money they can get their hands on, and a seller selling it for whatever price that they want to, that they think of in their dreams last night. We're getting back to buyers and listing agents needing to educate each and every one of your clients and set those expectations. And I'm grateful it's been working out for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think you brought up a good point there where, people are looking at what's going on like 6 months ago, or this one house that sold for so much. So, over asking price, as a seller, some people are, it's confirmation bias, right? They want something to happen. So they're looking for information that is, in existence that will support their belief, but it's not necessarily, it exists, but it's not necessarily like the truth, right? That
absolutely. Yeah. For example, a listing that I have now, the closest, we're kind of sitting in the middle of where the highest comp is, which was cash, and where the next comp is, which is half the distance, less than us, a few months ago. But taking into consideration some of the better features my listing has over the one that sold for a little less. But, I told my client, my seller, I said, this other house sold for cash. That means there was no appraisal. Looks like you sold off market. You got to take that with a grain of salt. And I never want my sellers to overextend themselves, just because you want to put a high price on it. Okay, you might get someone who will write an offer for that price, but what if you get a very conservative appraiser from the lender who's like, all right, they're knocking things down, say 20% because of the market stability. Then my seller is mad because they didn't get that high price because and all of these different things. So, like I said, it's really just kind of about educating and setting the expectation. This year, 2022, literally is a year where every single quarter is different than the previous. Q1 was, we were coming off of that high year last year, but also the rates started to come up. Q2, there was this shock and awe. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's a 5% interest rate, and then Q3, which is usually the summer and, summer, early fall, and you're kind of in a way used to it. But, now we're coming up on Q4, and it'll be interesting to see how the market or how people react to the market. Q3 historically, just because it's mostly summer, Q2 and 3, you got more listings on the market. No matter what the economy is doing, most people it's summer, they're going to list their house. So as a seller, I tell my sellers who are on the fence in the spring, say, hey, you're going to start to have more competition. So, which is going to, in a way, dilute the price of your home. So maybe, think about doing something, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, like you said, there's a comparative kind of value versus, an absolute value as well. So like, what is your, like, I guess if you're talking to a consumer, it's like, what is your actual, what is your goals versus what are you trying to look around what other people are getting. Cause like, you know, somebody might have sold a house that isn't worth $1 million for $1 million, but is that really what, do you need it? Do you need the extra $1 million? Is that your goal? Or do you need to just get this house listed on the market and, you know, move to your new job, right? And then you get the best value out of it. So it's, I think again, like a lot of people, they're seeing what's going on around them and they're letting it affect their decision making, which can be problematic. So, yeah. Right.
Yeah. No, it absolutely could be. And then, you know, we saw a lot in the first half of the year of these, you know, I'd say second half of last year to the first half of this year, a lot of those iBuy companies. So Zillow Homes and Open Door and all of the other ones who have had to make a shift, if you will, and readjust, you know, their business model. And one of my good friends, he was selling his house last fall and he got some offers from them, but he realized, hey, it's better they're going to lowball me because they need to make a profit, you know? So, I mean, he ended up selling himself on the market for about 75,000 higher than what his other offers were with an agent, you know? So, you know, a lot of those companies were really big. And I think even for some agents, or I never felt like I was competing with that because I can educate my clients. I never feel like I'm competing with anything if I'm able to educate my clients on something. Right. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's good that you brought up iBuyers because this is something that I don't think a lot of I haven't heard too much of this, I guess, within the industry from both investors and agents, but I have heard a couple of people that I'm personally close with kind of talking about this. And maybe this is like a Texas specific, but I doubt it really is. And I want to get your take on it in your markets as well. It's just I've been hearing a lot of just like the problem with iBuyers coming in, and this could be like a national iBuyer like an Open Door or Zillow or OfferPad coming in and buying in properties, or like a local kind of like a local real estate iBuying company. And they're just buying up entire subdivisions. They're literally buying up entire subdivisions of like new builds and pre-constructions and entire entire, you know, neighborhoods, and monopolizing the market. And that has been, I guess, a problem, or that's a problem that we're seeing, and why we encourage people to go invest in real estate, because it would rather have, you know, Willie own 5 properties than, you know, House Incorporated own like 5 million properties, right? So
no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you see it a couple of different ways. We were seeing it where large investment firms would, like you said, buy up a neighborhood or develop a single family home community with the intention of just renting them out.
Right.
And then you would see some of these national iBuy companies who would iBuyer companies who would intentionally overinflate the prices in neighborhoods or purchase homes at a higher price just to support and to provide a comp for when they sell a house that they are lowballing you on. So a house that, you know, they bought it from you for 180, but they're going to go and buy your neighbor's house and 3 doors down for 220, 230, just so they can paint walls and put down carpeting in your house to sell it for 235, you know, and provide the comps. And I will say, for some people, an iBuyer company works for them. Like if you need to relocate for a job, you don't want to go through the whole putting your house on the market thing. You just want a good, clean transaction, get in and out, and let it be someone else's responsibility. That can work for individuals. But I would challenge and say, I have helped many people relocate. So I work for many people too, you know, and making sure that you're getting, you know, top dollar, you know, for your home. So a lot of those companies, even when they are giving you their offer, they're still not really stepping foot into your home. It's you providing some additional photos for them, and it's all computer generated, if you will. So yeah, that's a whole episode right there, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, like I guess like it's just this issue that's coming up this past couple of years. And we don't know really it's gonna go. I think agents are scared as well that's gonna replace them, and maybe that's a good kind of path to go down in terms of the rest or our conversation is,
Yeah.
what do you think, agents are kind of are faced with, coming in this, next couple of months, maybe next year or so? I think agents some of them are a little scared, although they might not like to say it,
Like
right? It's
say
not,
it. Yeah.
because the past couple of years has been pretty easy, I
Oh
think,
gosh,
for
yes. It's so easy.
the,
Yeah. I had this conversation with another agent, or my broker actually yesterday.
yeah.
And I said, I would not want to be a new agent right now. And I don't want to be a new agent right now. Luckily, at this point, I've been in since the beginning of 2017. So 5, 6 years, whatever. And I remember when I started, there wasn't this influence on social media. Social media was around, obviously, but there wasn't this persona on social media where it was making real estate seem easier than what it was. I from the beginning, from day one, I just felt like it was work I wanted to do. And I personally, I enjoyed building my brand, building my business, figuring out what I wanted it to be and look like, and how I was going to provide services to my clients, how I was going to get my clients, how I was going to retain my clients, how I was going to make them happy, and all of the different ways and avenues that I felt comfortable doing. I did not do door knocking. It works for some people. I don't want to. I didn't really do cold calling. Works for some people. I don't want to. And I'm fine with that. And I know a percentage of business I might be missing out by not doing that. But even so, that approach is not authentic to me. So I don't want to do it. But not to knock anybody who's doing it. I'm glad there's people doing it so I don't have to. But now in these last couple of years, 2 or so years, real estate in 2020, after things kind of leveled off with COVID, and real estate was opening back up by the fall of 2020, real estate just got so crazy and bangbusters. And then you coming into 2021, and this idea that literally you can just, like I said, put any price on a home and it sells. And I think for any agent, just about any agent with a pulse and that wanted to do good last year was probably their best year. 2020 and or 2021. If you had a pulse and you did something to push your business forward, it was probably your best year. And a lot of agents were pushing that, and it's like, oh my God, I did this amount per year this year, blah blah blah, and making it seem easy. And a lot of agents were getting into, let me get into real estate, because the bar to get in real estate is so low. Like I said, a pulse 18 and passing a test, depending on which state you're in the country, is how easy or hard your test is. And some of them got into it, and to their surprise, the way to build your business or clientele and get clients and those conversations that you have to have were probably a little more detailed and harder than they thought. And now that we're experiencing this market shift and leveling off and all of that, I am so glad in more than one way that this is happening right now, because the market needed it. The market was just too lopsided. Also, like I said earlier, it's forcing agents to get back to educating your clients. And that's going to separate you. For a lot of those agents who got into real estate because they looked like they thought it was easy and just, oh, it's cute, and oh my God, my white BMW and my big bag and all of that stuff. Okay, now explain to your client what a 9% inflation rate means to them. Oh, well, I don't even know what it means, period, let alone, okay, explain to your seller what that means to them, and the opportunities that they still have to sell their home. Explain to it what, for a buyer who might be a little scared because they're expecting or anticipating a market drop, explain to them really what that market drop means and what a leveling off means and what an adjustment. Explain to them, now we're getting to that point where agents have to be agents. They have to be real estate advisors. They have to be counsel. They have to have an understanding of the market before anybody even understands it. They have to, kind of be able to do that. And I think a lot of these agents over the last couple of years have had the luxury of not needing to do that out of the gate. But when I started, me and my broker, we started a year or so apart. So mid 2010s, that was just something inherent that I learned and realized I needed to do from the beginning. So I didn't have to play catch up to learn the market so that I could I knew it. And I put myself and I positioned myself to do that. So I would hate to be a new agent right now because there is this false sense of understanding, this false persona that I think is being placed on real estate agents in the real estate market and what it means to be an agent. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Because a lot of agents, maybe it's just the past couple of years. I guess I wasn't really around in like 08 or 09. Like,
I wasn't, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like the past couple of years, I mean, like, it seems like agents are just kind of like glorified tour guides of homes. We've heard that term a lot. You open doors and, you show kind of what this house looks like. I guess most people can do that. But now, like you said, it takes a little bit more than kind of just opening a door to be in the real estate, being in the real estate industry. So
yeah. And then once you get into a transaction and you come up and you run into an issue in the transaction and being able to troubleshoot that, in a lot of ways it can be troubleshot without bringing your broker. Obviously, some things you got to bring your broker in, but just being able to have the ability to troubleshoot issues without having to call 2, 3, 4 different people. And even just having an overall idea of what is going on so that you can figure out what needs to happen because you might be in step 3, but because step 7, 8, and 9, you can figure it out here in anticipation for what's coming down the road. But yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess this is I guess maybe you can explain your answer. You can give your answer and then explain it, or maybe not. But we'll see. So you say you would hate it for somebody you would hate to be a new agent right now. So do you think that? I guess this question can go either way. But do you think do you think people should be getting their real estate license? Do you think new agents should be exiting the industry looking for a different thing to do, or do you think they should just kind of like strap up and just do the thing you originally planned to go and do?
Yeah. Yes to all of the above.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll there are some agents who do have it, who have the wherewithal to know you gotta pull it by your bootstraps, you gotta get in there, you gotta make it happen. You got to make it work. And they have that desire to, and that want to do that. No matter what their family makeup is, whether they're married or single, kids or no kids, whatever, they just know I want to do this and I know the work required and I'm going to do it. No one's going to stop me. There are some agents who probably have severely underestimated what it takes to be in this industry. And they're letting their pride get in the way and not allowing themselves to just not even take the L, but just say, you know what, a year and a half into it, this isn't for me. Maybe I've only done one transaction. I might not have done any transactions. It is expensive to be a real estate agent. So to be a real estate agent for 6 months, a year and a half or so, and not have a sale, you're in the hole thousands and thousands of dollars for the simple fact of just having a real estate license, And then, yeah, and then there are some agents who can do this and they can work a 9 to 5. They know that if you mentally say I'm going to be a part-time agent, and whatever that looks like, however you set up and structure your business, you can do that. And I think for all of those categories, if you own it, that is the right answer for you. If you own it, the fact that I'm a part-time agent, I only want to help some family and friends. I maybe some showings on the weekend, limited exposure, but enough. One transaction a month or every other month is still, some good extra money of the year. And if some agents literally just get out of their own way and are honest with themselves and say, I don't think this is for me, and that's okay. That's okay. Everything is not for everybody. This is a little harder than I thought, and I don't have the bandwidth or the desire or the motivation to do what's needed to do this long term. So I'm going to bow out. I'm going to, let my broker release me, and I'm going to just go get a regular job until maybe I'm able to provide some stability and get back into it, or just say, real estate's not for me.
Yeah, yes to all of the above. So yeah, I mean,
Yes,
I like that
to
answer.
all of the above.
Yeah, I like that answer because it's not like, I think people want to know like what they should do. You know what I mean? Like agents, they want to know like, oh, this market's shifting, should I go? I mean, I guess if you're having that thought, like if you're doubting whether or not you should even stay in the industry, you probably
they already 9 out of 10 times they already know the answer.
Yeah, right. So like probably just not for you.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I mean, like it again, like you said, like I mean, like if you want to stay in the industry, it's I mean, do you think, I guess I've heard opinions on this, like if the ones who actually weathered the storm, if you will, and go through the bad cycle, those are the ones that are going to retain the market share as well because of everybody else who's quit. So do you think, if you just kind of step up a little bit, do a little bit more, provide more for your clients, go in and more from a service standpoint and an educational standpoint, is the reward going to be even more than they think?
Absolutely. One of my biggest goals and the driving factor behind I've been traveling a lot these last few weeks or so I haven't been as aggressive, but my biggest goal, my biggest thought process behind my social media presence is, if somebody has a question, I want to be one of the answers. So if you have a question about real estate and whatever the question might be, whether it's, hey, inflation and interest rates, what does that mean? Or is selling my home, buying a home, is the sky blue, like whatever it is as it relates to real estate, I want to be one of the answers. And to be one of the answers, I have to just keep providing information and education to my clients, and even people who are not clients of mine, even people who haven't worked for me or will never work for me or whatever, but they're getting an answer from me. I have a lot of people that will ask me a question who have an agent, or they feel slighted by their agent. And I'm never going to be the one that's like, well, hey, drop your agent, come work for me. I'll answer your question. I'll provide that value. You can decide. You're the one paying your agent, not me. So
yeah, that's very important. I think that's, if you're giving out free value, which you are. I've seen the reels on Instagram and the posts as well. They're very educational for people with inside and outside the industry as well. So I think, that's what you do, and that's what people should be thinking more of, how they can do that versus just kind of like locking in deals, like you said, not knocking the cold calling, door knocking people. But if you're able to offer some type of value, I think that's the long-term plan. And it's just not like, this is not just like a real estate specific thing. This is everything. Like if you
everything.
Yeah, I mean, just it's a value. Like business is built on value. It's not necessarily built on like just trying to make one sale and how you can get to that one sale or that two sales or however many sales you're trying to get to, essentially. So
no, absolutely. And I think sometimes too, for agents or newer agents, whatnot, and I've had this conversation many times with some newer agents in my office, where they would say, oh, I just need to get that, you have your weekly meeting. Oh, I need to get to have that first sale. I'm just waiting on the first sale. What's your goal this week? Go on that first client. And then I start to position them. I say, okay, well, after you get that first one, then what? It's like, you gotta look past that. I ran track in high school. And one of the things my track coach would always say, run through the finish line. If you stop at the finish line, then you've slowed down before you get to it. So, I'd say to agents that are saying, oh, I just need to get that first sale. I need to get a first sale. No, you need to create a structure in your business so that the business will come, so that you are approachable for that first, second, third sale, that 10th sale a year from now, whatever. It's not just about the first sale, because some people might think, oh, I'll feel a lot better when I get that first sale. Your first sale might be the easiest thing in the world. It's a buyer who just so happens to call you, I'm pre-approved 400,000. I want to buy this house. And boom, that literally happened to me during the pandemic. I was sitting on the couch in April 2020. Somebody I know, a friend of mine, 6 degrees of separation, called me, said, hey, pre-approved. I want to buy this house that's down the street from me. It's almost finished being built. Boom. Literally one of the easiest transactions I've had. And also because it was a pandemic, I couldn't even go to the inspections and closings and stuff, but whatever. But okay, you get that first sale is super easy. But now that second sale is FHA. And your buyer is a little of a headache. And then you have the FHA repairs from the inspection and how to negotiate that. How do you negotiate it? It's a resale. The house was built in 1964. And you got to negotiate things from the home inspection. Then the appraisal comes in 10,000 lower in the, so, okay, you have the first sale. So you don't need help anymore. You got this. So that's why it never ends. It never gets easier. It's always hard. It's just hard in a different way.
Right. I love that. It's hard in a different way. Yeah. I mean, have to, people have to look past that versus, just kind of getting things done versus do you want to make a career out of this, especially long term. So kind of looking more in a kind of like a macro, or it's both macro and micro, I guess. Kind of like macro in terms of, the economy as a whole, and then micro in terms of, because you work in 2 different markets, I kind of want to get your take on this because real estate is more local. If you're licensed in, New York, you can't sell a house in Florida, vice versa.
Exactly.
So do we think, both clients and agents are kind of seeing the economy as a whole and then judging their business and making decisions based on what they're hearing in the news, which could be completely irrelevant to their current situation?
Yeah. I potentially. So when you talk about the economy as a whole, obviously we know rates are the rates. They're kind of like that across the board. We know that appreciation is pretty high for homes. We know that the home prices over the last couple of years have been just skyrocketing. And if you're a homeowner, it's been great for your appreciation. It's been a little harder for some sellers or from some buyers and things like that. But when it comes to more localized, I've seen a little different in some, between the 2 metro areas. So here in Atlanta, there was a time when a house that 250 to 350 price range was like the golden ticket. That was, everybody was looking in that price range. Everything was sold in that price range. Now I'm seeing it's 400, 500, 600, 700. Like it's leaning more toward that luxury price point, especially here in Atlanta. The average and median sales price is over 400,000. So and that's gone up 100 plus. Like that's gone up a lot in the past 12 to 18 months. In Metro D, and also here in Atlanta, there's been such a scarcity of new construction, and it's mainly because just a lack of land to build it and whatnot. And then if you want a ranch home, it's mostly in a 55 and up community, but in Metro Detroit, there is more vacant land and more subdivisions are being built so the average home price is obviously lower, but it's giving my buyers an opportunity to still kind of get into that new construction price range. Still hard under 300,000, but in that $400,000 to $500,000 price range, those are kind of they're still sitting on the market long enough to give you an opportunity to see it, get under contract, and so on and so forth. My client right now, she's under contract on a new construction at almost 600. Have been on the market literally probably since the plans were approved and the foundation was dug, beginning of this year, end of last year. But now we're under contract 90 days out from occupancy. Here in Atlanta, what I'm seeing is the builders phasing things out as they get closer to being completed. Because I mean, if a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, was to be built, I mean, a lot of times it's gone. So it is I'm seeing something, especially for the new construction, and for new construction homes, seeing some differences between the two markets. Like I said, here in Atlanta, not a whole lot of opportunity unless you go 30, 45 minutes out. In a Metro Detroit, there is a little more opportunity. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it does depend on the inventory of the market and, what's actually available and building and our homes being built, right? Like, is it in
for
demand?
sure.
So.
Yeah. And, even with some of the builders too, like I would, as I'm looking at new build homes listed on the MLSs, here in Georgia, in FMLS and in Michigan and Real Comp, the new construction homes here in Atlanta, I'm seeing more builders in some cases offer some financing incentives, using their lenders. I don't see it as much in Michigan, or at least not yet again. But I'm seeing some closeout deals and some some things to kind of help clear out the inventories, and especially because the home prices are higher here too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think people should be making their decisions essentially based off of, what they see. That's, what they see on TikTok or,
oh gosh,
or, So it's much more local. And if you're a consumer listening to this, or like if you're a buyer and a seller or an investor, I guess as well, talk to an agent, right? If you're in Atlanta or Metro Detroit, talk to Willie, because he obviously knows what he's talking about. So, and if you're an agent, again, I think same thing. Like, don't let the panic or the fear that's that you're seeing, don't let it scare you, but also understand that it's not, you're not gonna just be able to open a door and kind of make a commission anymore. So
absolutely, for the most part. And one of the things as agents too are now having to, what was so interesting, obviously before these last 2.5 years, you wouldn't even hear as much on even local or national news about the housing market per se. You'd hear it a little bit, but you hear it a lot more now, and in some ways that leaves it up for interpretation to the person that's hearing it. So if you hear that the average home price is at $420,000 and maybe a year ago is at $350,000, you are constantly feeling as though you're being priced out of the market. And for some people, unfortunately, that is the case. But what I've often found is a lot of consumers are giving themselves the no before talking to somebody else, before talking to a lender, to just even evaluate what your credit profile and your overall financial profile looks like, to say, okay, if you just did 1, 2, 3, we can circle back in 3 months and kind of get you better in a better position or get you ready. Or saying, oh, you're great now, and if you just need to ask for some concessions. That's I've gotten people concessions in the last couple of years. So I think that's one of my biggest that's another concern that I have with consumers, is because they don't know, they are giving themselves that no before speaking to a professional, and not even just an agent, but just speaking to, like I said, a a loan officer or mortgage broker to see what it is truly that they can afford, or how close they might be to that. It might not be today, but okay, it might be in November, might be in December.
Right, exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
it all comes down to information and, the education that, you actually have access to. And, for people to be able to make a decision without having all the information is, they shouldn't do that essentially. So you should definitely, get on the information first and then proceed accordingly, essentially. So that's some great advice, Willie, for this this interview that we've done. So some great advice, not just for consumers and people in the market who are looking to sell, looking to buy, but also agents as well. So I mean, don't want to take up too much of your time, but if you have if you have any last tips for our buyers and sellers that could be listening to this, and also for agents coming into what may or may not happen. With everybody throws around the word crash, what may or may not happen. Any last tips so that everybody can kind of be a little bit more aware of what's going on and they can make decisions accordingly, so they're not either making out of fear or making it out of a bias against essentially themselves, essentially one way or the other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What I would say for agents, it is imperative, and it's so very important that we become, again, those subject matter experts, and educate our clients in ways that they may not have been in the past, or they might not are being educated right now. A lot of people are reading headlines, and the headlines can be deceiving, they can be appalling, they can be scary, but being able to do a deep dive and give that level of understanding to the clients, and not even looking for anything in return, whether you're just putting that information out there and explaining it. One of the things I love about doing reels is usually I will see 9 out of 10 agents. For example, a couple of months ago, when the inflation rate at 9.1, when that came out, all day I saw people just resharing the graphic from various news outlets and financial. So everyone just had that in their story. And I said, okay, but no one's explained this. No one's explained this for what this means for a buyer or seller. So I did a reel and I explained it, and people were just grateful and thankful that, oh, thank you for explaining it. I understand it now and whatnot. So just getting back to, like I said, educating people. And for consumers, buyer or a seller, don't give yourself that no before talking to a professional agent, a loan officer, mortgage broker, your financial advisor, whoever and whatever that may be. For sellers, you only need one. You only need one offer. You only need one buyer, and that buyer is most likely out there. And for a buyer, you only need one house, and that house is most likely out there. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, people are thinking too much. Right? I love that. You only need one offer, and you only need one house. You can't take two offers, right? Like, I mean.
Yeah, you can't. And the funny thing, everyone thinks, every seller thinks they want 10 or 20 offers. I remember last spring, I was listing a house in Michigan. I was here visiting Atlanta, and I remember I was at my hotel, and we got like 15 offers, and I was in bed with my fiance, and she was helping me. She was reading the offers to me as I'm putting them in a spreadsheet. And even as I condensed it a little lower and got rid of some of the other ones that I knew just weren't going to work, it still was a tough decision for my seller. And and even my sellers initially picked the offer that gave them some issues, and we had to go back to a backup offer and all of that. But everyone thinks they want that many offers until you have to make a decision on that many offers, and realizing it's not an easier decision. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's like that same story of like the person who builds a 5-bedroom house, but they only use one of them. So,
exactly.
And it takes more time, right? Deciding which bedroom to use every night.
It does.
So it's actually a lot easier, like you said, just to find, as a buyer, to find your, your dream home. Oh, this is it. And, this is the one that we're going to go with. And as a seller, this is the offer. and it meets all the criteria as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
people just, kind of, I was just talking about this yesterday. It's much easier to just make things a lot simpler and kind of, make things a lot easier because people make things harder than it has to be. And they think that it's, complicated is better, but in the reality, it's actually a lot better if you just make things simpler, easier.
Yeah. Just make it simpler and easier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You eliminate all the unnecessary fluff that's kind of around you. Mm-hmm. It's only distracting you. So.
Oh, for sure. And, even in that too, we're kind of even going back to with the agent, I know even sellers too, I've noticed in the last couple of months myself, I've always been a pretty transparent listing agent. So if I'm listing a home, kind of letting you know where I'm sitting with offers, even if I don't call for highest and best, say, oh, we got one offer in, but it might be contingent. Oh, we got this, and giving everybody, buyers, an opportunity and their agents opportunity to show the home, to write their offer and do different things. Even a couple of weeks, about a week and a half ago, for a buyer, I called an agent and say, it's been on the market for a few days. Hey, is this house still in the market? Is it under contract? We just talked about what our sellers needed. And I said, okay, my buyer's going to write this offer and everything. Just us having that communication, I was able to get the offer accepted, a verbal acceptance, if you will, before even writing it, so we got it written, binding that night and everything. And just having that communication, and everyone's trying to keep their cards so close to their chest, and the agents don't want to say anything because they want everybody to just claw over the homes and write these ridiculous offers, when it's just like, let us know what your client needs, let us know what you're looking for as a buyer's agent. Let that agent know what is the situation with your buyer, what's the situation with the financing. I always bring a loan officer into the loop when I submit an offer and add them as a CC to the email, so that agent can know this is a very attentive agent or loan officer. Mm-hmm. If you got any questions, just reply to the email. They'll answer it, they'll communicate. So, so getting back to, like I said, back to the point of educating people and then bringing communication back into the transaction. So far this summer, I will say, even listings I've had multiple offers on, as a buyer or seller, every contract I got accepted and closed was negotiated. It wasn't just hey, here's the kitchen sink and their firstborn. It was, okay, this is what we're looking for. Starting a dialogue and say, okay, what can we do? How can we make this a little better? This is what we're looking for. Okay, we can cut that out. We can do this. We can maneuver that. Oh, this is going to work great for my seller. Are you able to do this? Can you just bring a few more? And all of it's negotiated. And in that negotiation or in those communications, it's building that relationship with the other agent, who is then being able to give their client a good experience. And then I'm able to give my client, and it's it's called real estate.
Right. Yeah. It's just, I love it. Bringing communication back, right? It should have never left.
Exactly.
Communication should have never left. It's the key. And have you read or heard of the book Never Split the Difference?
I've heard of it. I feel like maybe at one point I did listen to it.
Right.
I feel like I started the audiobook during the pandemic in like 2020 when I used to take my walks and stuff. But I don't recall much of it. But the sentiment of it is, I think it's just kind of getting back to those communications and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about, so Chris Voss, he's a former FBI negotiator for like hostage situations, and he says like the most successful negotiators are the ones that are trying to solve the problem for the person on the other side, even when they're like, they have your family member tied up. You're trying to solve the problem for them, because that's how you get to an agreement. You're not trying to trump somebody, play that trump card or whatever, going over and embarrass the other party and take the best offer on the deal and completely screw them over. You're trying to work out a situation where everybody is okay with it, and that makes everybody's life easier. And this should be the way that we approach everything, not just a transaction or a client or whatever. It should be the way I think everybody should be approaching their life, is just making it easier for everybody because, you're only making it harder on yourself at that point.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, whichever side of the transaction you're on, our goal is to sell and close this house at the end of the day. Yeah.
Right. Everybody has a more common goal than we think. So
yeah, that is true.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I love it, Willie. Thanks. I mean, thanks again for being a guest back on the show and kind of easing our nerves a little bit about the market and telling our agents, our agent listeners, what they should be doing, how they should be, shifting their plan and strategies as well. I really appreciate it. Again, if you guys are a consumer in the Metro Detroit area or Atlanta, talk to Willie. He's the man. Like, you guys should talk to him. He knows his stuff, and you just listen to him, talk about what kind of value he can give you as well. And I don't know, will you like talk to agents as well? So I don't want to.
I'll talk to agents too. Yeah. I have no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't want agents out there giving us agents a bad name either. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's a great way to think about it, right? I don't know if it's like that movie where Guardians were Rocket Raccoon asked, why do you want to save the universe? Right? Because we live in the universe. That's why I want to save it. So yeah. So if you're an agent, right? If you're struggling, talk to Willie. He has a lot of great advice for you. You just listen to him. For this past hour, if you guys think that, you are wanting to stay in the industry if you're a little bit newer, or if you want to get into the industry as well, I think Willie can give you guys a good perspective of a real perspective of what you need to do versus, just seeing all the glamour and the glory on social media as well. So definitely reach out, and let's remind everybody, how they can reach out to you, Willie, if they, don't remember from the first episode.
Well, I even changed some of my social media too, but I condensed it. But my Instagram's at WillieJ_Davis. My Facebook, Facebook.com/The Atlanta Agent, I believe is. Right. But you can find me on LinkedIn as well. So you can find me everywhere. And I think even in my Instagram, I have my Linktree link to all my other social media in there as well. But yeah, so my Instagram is at WillieJ_Davis.
Yeah, guys, reach out to Willie on social media. He will, happily, give you some advice, whether you're an agent or a buyer or seller as well. So Willie, dude, thanks again for doing this for us and being a guest.
Thank you.
We love having you. I think you're one of our best guests, and that's why you get to come on again. So
I appreciate it. Have a great time. I enjoy talking to you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Free Life Agents Podcast. For more resources or to connect with us further, please visit our website, www.freelifeagents.com. We'll see you next time.